Hello and welcome to Aging Matters. It's a program that is provided by and sponsored by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging. My name is Ann Barlet and I'm the Public Advocacy and Outreach Manager for the agency. We have an exciting topic this evening and I'm excited with the facts and the information and our guest. So I'm going to introduce our guest right away is Janet Little. She's a registered dietitian and our topic is sugar, safe or sorry. So we have lots to cover in terms of that. We could be here all night probably. Yep. So we're going to start right in, and I'm going to ask for the first slide to be put up, which is the March. It is National Nutrition Month, and the theme for the month, for the Nutrition Month, is put your best fork forward. And while we have that up, I did want to mention, and we'll mention it periodically throughout the show, this is through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and they have a site that you can access for a lot of the information we'll be covering this evening. It is www.eatright.org. Okay, so that's why we're talking about this, and we wanted to narrow it down a little bit and talk specifically about sugars. I know that there are lots of folks trying to watch. We're still in the new year phase of trying to watch what we eat maybe, and some of us are watching fat, some are really watching sugars. And what I did want to mention, why I thought this would be most appropriate, is that I have class that is coming up. It is a diabetes self-management program. It is a program that I will be starting to teach on Thursday, March 30th. The class is from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and we're having it as being hosted for us by the Heritage at Green Hills. You can register with me, and it's for folks who are diabetic, who are probably been told they might be pre-diabetic, or folks that either are a spouse or companion, significant other that might be living or caring for that individual, to learn more about positive eating habits, planning menus, stress reduction, and so on. There's a lot of topics for that 6-week program, so you can learn more about it. But in looking and preparing to teach that class, obviously sugars and sources of sugars have been on my mind. So let's start right in with this month's topic about sugars. And I guess, I'm going to start asking you, Janet, right off the bat, we hear fats.
Yes.
But let's talk about the detriment of sugars. Kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think what happened, especially 20 years ago, is yes, we were very fat phobic. People concentrated on that, and kind of what's interesting is there's 3 sources of energy in our diet. There's proteins, carbohydrates, and fats.
Okay.
So yes, fats are quite the source of energy. There's 9 calories for every gram, 4 calories per gram for carbohydrates. That didn't mean that you shouldn't be watching your carbohydrates too. There must be something where people can't do 3 things at once.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all a balance, and that's what dietitians do. We do see the big picture, and we help people develop their own patterns. But with fat, people were concerned about heart disease and concerned about consuming too much dietary fat and too much of a certain kind of fat too. Just forgetting about sugars. And sometimes when you buy a baked product where they've taken the fat out, they added extra sugar, additional sugar, for it to maintain its structure. Well, they were adding carbohydrate. So people hate to hear this, but moderation is the key.
Okay.
It really is, because otherwise you're going to go very easily one way or the other. What happens with sugars is like anything, when you have too much of something, it's a way to sneak additional calories in. What's difficult for people to understand is there are carbohydrates in so many foods, and it's natural. It's the additional sugars. It's the sugars that maybe you add when you bake something. Very likely it's something that's in a food that you buy all the time and you don't know it's in there.
So let's start, since you mentioned the natural, give me some examples.
Well, a good example is milk. Milk has carbohydrate in it. Every carbohydrate, it ends up being blood glucose. Glucose. See, I can't speak either. I can't speak. But glucose in your blood. So in milk, it's lactose. That's the form of carbohydrate in milk. So you can get that and drink it, and that's naturally occurring carbohydrate
Okay.
in that cup. But if you, in fact, I have an example right here where,
Okay.
well, I'm just going to, you have to take it on faith. There's about 12 grams of carbohydrate in an 8 fluid ounce glass of milk.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to repeat that again. About 12?
About 12 grams of,
Okay.
the carbohydrate that naturally occurs in milk is in milk. And
Okay.
that's just natural. It's the way it is. But when you flavor it, when you buy vanilla flavored or chocolate flavored or strawberry flavored, which a lot of times when they were addressing the weight gain issue, obesity issue in schools, they replaced the Coke machines with milk. Some kids just didn't like regular milk. They wanted the flavored milks. Like I like strawberry. Well, that's actually okay because often there's only a difference of 25 calories between the two. You'd think it would be like double. No, it's only 25 calories. You have to make sure that's what you're getting. And that's like adding this is a sugar packet with 4 grams of carbohydrate.
Okay.
It's actually less than these two. It's like 1.5 of these things. Added to good old milk in the form of added sugars to flavor it in many flavors. Banana, I suppose, is another one. But, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry is
Are the
very
typical,
common.
yeah.
And at least the child drinks it. And they found that the children that did get milk in this way or drank it, said, yes, I'll drink it, and actually drained the glass, didn't gain weight.
Okay.
The trend is that they got the nutrients they needed. And they felt
Right.
satiated without, imbibing a lot of the added sugars that really sneak in a lot of additional calories without nutrients. That's why you want to watch these added sugars. They don't have nutrients associated with them.
Okay, so
I
they're
know.
just empty
Energy.
calories
Empty.
and some energies. Okay,
Right.
all righty.
I think the thing to remember is a lot of times, sugar is a preservative, just like salt is, just like, pulling all the water out is too. So you want to respect it for that, but you also want to know where it is so you know if you want to get it or not.
Okay.
So it's not a surprise.
And how about
to
another
girls.
natural carb or sugar if you're talking?
Yogurt. How about yogurt, which
All
is
right.
like another
Okay.
form of a dairy product?
Yeah.
Well, good old plain low-fat yogurt, 1 cup, naturally has 17 grams of sugar. Why so much
Okay,
more?
so
I'm
one
sorry,
cup-
of carbohydrate naturally occurring.
1 cup, okay.
1 cup. So 1 cup of milk had about 12. This has more like 17, 18 because when you make yogurt, you pull out the liquid and you're left with a solid, so it's more dense. So a cup of yogurt, not milk. This is regular, not Greek. That's even
Okay.
more so. So I'm
Oh,
going to
okay.
do regular yogurt, not Greek. Greek is even more so. It's even more condensed and thick.
Okay.
So we're looking at good old regular yogurt here, and it's 17.25 grams. Well, that's like 4 of these,
So we have 4
approximately.
packets, okay.
4
That's 4
packets.
of those. And that is plain?
Plain non-fat.
Okay.
That's right. It's plain non-fat yogurt.
So if I get a flavored yogurt
If
or
you-
if there's fruit in the yogurt?
Right. Well, there's where you get your added sugars, especially if you don't do it yourself. If you don't flavor it yourself, if you
And I go to the
buy,
store and buy,
here's vanilla, because
Oh,
they
my.
added the sugar. And this is like one that I looked up. It had 33, almost 34 grams of sugar. So
it's almost double, yeah.
So they took the regular yogurt and added 4 more in terms of how much sugar they added. So here's regular, and I go, no, I want the vanilla.
Yeah.
This is how much there is. So this is what was added.
Yikes. Okay, I guess I won't be eating yogurt anymore. And you think it's so healthy, in terms of a better choice if I'm picking that for some snack or meal or, so you picked up a third
Well,
row of sugar. Can I help you hold
and
this one?
here's fruited. How about this? Here's regular. Here's not flavored.
Okay.
And here's fruited. So here's the way God made it, yogurt, and then here's everything else. So there's a little less of the yogurt in the container because there needs to be room for the fruit.
Okay.
And the syrupy kinds of things they use to sweeten it. and this is how much more there is. I can't believe it either. I did my
Right.
math over and over. But there it is. So,
And it's such a visual for us to see and think about that. And again, I go back to even the container size, the
One cup.
amount,
Yeah.
So I hate to put you on the spot, but if we were to purchase the regular just yogurt with those 3 or 4 packs, and I wanted fruit,
yeah.
I would be better having fruit on the side of my own, a banana or whatever that would be. I wouldn't have that whole long list of sugar, would I?
No.
Okay.
No, and that's the reason for the theme. Your best fork forward is, you want to take little steps. You're more likely to changing your taste is a very difficult thing to do.
Yes.
You have to want to do it, but it also should be something that is maybe doable. Something small enough where it tastes good, and you get used to a less sweet taste, intense sweet taste.
And I think just staying on that too is, I know for a fact that those that are used to those kinds of things, you seem to want more.
Yeah.
And you know that you can change your taste, and as you said, take smaller steps in it and take some time. But if you start to make those changes over a period of time, I've also known that you're not as craving or wanting those real sugars that you have craved in the past. I wanted to talk about, so we talked about some of the, I think a little bit of the detriment, the energy is there, but it's the way we're getting these sugars, and then the amounts, and then how we're getting it in terms of how to get sugar. The guide for an amount, tell me again, a guide that we should be thinking about as an amount of sugar.
Of added sugars, about 10% of your carbohydrates. Actually, no,
Okay.
your total calories. Now, that's not much. In other words, you can't say, no, I'm not going to have it, but as little as possible.
Right.
And again, it really can sneak in there.
So it's
Yeah.
not just, when I think of added sugars, you think of the traditional adding sugar in
Right.
on my cereal or sugar in my coffee. It's more than that.
It's in, a lot of times it's in your purchased foods.
So tell me about some things that I might be floored by, or that I don't think that might have sugar.
Okay.
And foods that might have sugar. I don't know when it's foods I buy.
Well, how about good old Cheerios? They're pretty
Okay.
plain. And so a cup of them, a serving size, is about actually less than, in terms of how much sugar, less than this packet, like a third of this packet. That's all that's in Cheerios.
And Cheerios, the serving size was what, did
About
you
a
say?
cup.
About a cup of Cheerios.
But then you go,
plain
oh,
Cheerios.
plain Cheerios.
Plain Cheerios.
Plain Cheerios.
Okay.
And you have to be
That we're going to have to
careful.
acquire a taste for.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So
something-
that's amazing.
That's
Okay.
and a lot of this, again, is the natural oat, the
Yes,
natural
okay.
product. I know there's some sugar in there, but not much. It's less than this.
Wow.
Less than this.
Okay.
This is 4 grams, and it's, what's 4 times 16 calories? That's all it is.
Uh-huh.
Well, here's Honey Nuts Cheerios. It's actually more than 2. So
Okay.
right away, you've doubled it and then some, just with the Honey Nut Cheerios. Now, we don't want to get real picky about this. What you could do, if you really like Honey Nut Cheerios, is combine the two. You can just take a little of these out and put a little of the Honey Nut Cheerios on. That's one way to handle it.
Okay.
Now, you might think, well, at least it's not Captain Crunch. Well, I looked up Captain Crunch, and Captain Crunch, the same amount, is, and it fell off, but it's this much. Okay, it's not
okay.
this much. That's more.
Yes.
But there's a greater difference between Cheerios, plain Cheerios and Honey Nut Cheerios than there is between the Honey Nut Cheerios and the Captain Crunch, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So this is probably, I think, of the ones I brought, the best example of where, gee, these are Cheerios, that should be okay, right? Well, they're Honey Nut Cheerios. And so you really, and yeah, honey, yeah, you think it's natural, nuts are good for you, but you look at the product, it's a name. And you look at the label, the nutrition facts label, and you see how many carbohydrates there are. You compare to the Cheerios, and you know that it's additional
And
sugars.
so I'm going to ask you right there when you said carbohydrates. Am I looking on the label and will I find that as a sugar?
You're
Or the
gonna-
carbohydrate?
You're going to
Or-
find it. You're going to see. I should let you finish the question. I'm too
No,
fast.
that's okay.
All right.
No, I'm just on the label. Is it sugars that I'm looking at?
You look at both.
Okay.
You'll see, protein, fat,
Yep.
and then you'll see carbohydrates.
Yes.
Underneath, you'll see fiber. And then you'll see sugars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I noticed, something will have carbohydrates. Maybe it's 35, and then the added sugars is 20. They really divided it up for you. Those are the added sugars. Others,
Okay.
I noticed that they're the same. The carbohydrates and the sugars are the same, and it must be simply the way they're looking at those sugars.
Okay.
So they could, but what I would look at, since you're trying to avoid added sugars, is the sugars, and then compare it to the carbs, because that's where you could see the added sugars. Comparing the two.
Okay, good.
And then think about what it is. That'll help you too. It's not a whole food very often. It's something that started whole and then it went through processing.
Okay, okay. How about, do you want to stay with your other food demonstrations?
Did I do Coke yet?
No.
No, I did not.
Okay.
No, I mentioned Coke
So
to
we're into
Ann, and she said,
beverages.
well, Coke's so normal. Well, it is normal. I know people are getting into different types of beverages, but good old Coke, and this is a
Well, and it's the supersizing, or I can tell you the one place I work, you get a container like this size, and I honestly don't know what the ounces are, and for a very low amount of money, you can get it refilled.
right.
So a lot of folks are drinking sodas in a,
Absolutely. Yeah, value marketing.
yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about that.
Well, here is 12 fluid ounces. So you're
Okay.
thinking about a can. 12 fluid
Okay.
ounces, and there's 39 grams. That's this many sugar packets. It's almost 10 sugar packets. So some Cokes are going back to using sucrose, like table
Yes.
sugar. Others, it's the high fructose corn syrup. But these are added sugars. And when you look at that, the nutrition facts label of that product, there's no nutrients. There's caffeine and there's caffeine. And that's why people
Okay.
drink it too,
Yep.
to wake up.
Yep.
Some people don't like coffee.
Yes.
And it's refreshing, and it's, one of those things. Mountain Dew is another one. It has
Yes.
a lot of caffeine.
Yep.
I know people that drink a lot more than one can of these things.
Yes.
Because they like them. And it's, so you just think about this, wow.
I know. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yep. Wow. Okay. And again, as you said, no nutrients. I mean,
No
it's kind of
nutrients.
the empty.
And that's where one of our things there, the slide
Okay,
is.
so we want to have the slide. We can look at the slide that we have up on ways to limit our added sugars.
And it actually mentions that, well, you've actually mentioned this, enjoy fruit instead of sweets to dessert more often. And you actually
Okay.
said that earlier, it was your example. And then drink milk or water in place of a sugar-sweetened beverage. So I did mention milk and even
Yes.
flavored milk. Well,
Yes.
that, in many schools, they replaced the Coke. They said, no, we don't need the scoreboard. We'll take your product out because
Okay.
we'll put a milk machine in instead. And that's a good example of that.
Okay.
And then choose foods and drinks with less added sugars by using the nutrition facts label. And we just talked about that. You look at the carbs and the carbohydrates and the added sugars. And you can look at the list of ingredients too. You can see them.
Okay.
There's so many. I don't want to miss any. So there's brown sugar, corn syrup, dextrose, fructose, which is the carbohydrate in fruit, high fructose corn syrup, honey, maple syrup, molasses, sucrose, which is table sugar, white granulated sugar, which is another word for that, or quite slightly different type, and there are others, very chemical names. And you were mentioning things you might think are good for you. You go, well, honey is from bees, and molasses is from a process, and maple syrup's from a tree. It's natural. It's still a carbohydrate. It's still a condensed form of calories that make things taste good. They help preserve, but you have to own it and know that's what's in there and adding.
I want to hit one more demo here because this was a biggie, and I think it's very common. Folks in the area, we talked about sodas and Coke in particular, just not for the product, but because of the caffeine, that some people prefer that. But I know a lot of folks that are on the go these days, and I see all the drive-up windows that are quite busy all day long for coffee.
Right.
So blow our mind on this one, Janet.
All right. Well, I went to the Starbucks site, and it's a very nice site, by the way. I really enjoyed looking up things on that. So I went to the Frappuccino section and nutrient facts for that. And so I chose a cafe vanilla Frappuccino.
Oh, alrighty, sounds delicious.
I clicked on it, and it's so cute. There's like drop-down menus, like what it is, how the size, the serving size, and with or without. Oh, and then what kind of milk was in it, and then whether it had a whipped cream topping or not. And I had a lot of fun. So I chose. I chose first the whole milk, and yes, I went whipped cream topping.
Why not?
And it was, why not? And it was I'm not drinking it, and it's a grande, 16 fluid ounces,
so
69 grams.
Wow.
And I can't get over it myself, but there it is. So
some people have several of those.
I'm sure.
In a day's time.
Yeah. Now you might think, well, how can I change this? What about that drop-down menu? What did you find? What I found was I then chose fat-free milk. That's a big change between whole milk and fat-free milk. That's like you took out a pat and a half of butter. That's what you just did there. And I chose no topping. Okay, so there's a step forward.
Okay.
And what changed was the fat, not the sugar. The sugar was like maybe 2 grams less, like half of one of these packets. So you can't, that product at least, you can't change the sugar. It's built in.
Okay.
It's built in. So it's not black coffee where you add maybe one of these packets or some of it. It's like, that's a lot of sugar.
So let's take what you just said as far as changing. Making changes, not necessarily in the coffee, because that's a product that, not making much change in the sugars. But let's quickly, a couple minutes, talk about substituting. How can I make that change? How can I begin to, in the added sugar choices? We talked about the one I had said by having that yogurt and then fruit as opposed to buying it that way. But how about some other substitute types of things? What can I do simply to begin to make my changes, to have my best fork forward?
Well, the way to do it is, I would say anybody watching this program would think, oh, I better look at the nutrition facts label, so at least I know. And then if they heard one of these products and said, I like these, what can I do instead? Well, one thing I do, like with the yogurt, is I will still buy one of these fruit-flavored ones. I'll buy a little one, and I'll buy a big thing, a big container of I get non-fat, plain. And I'll just put the plain in a bowl and a little bit of the fruited one.
Okay.
Stir it around.
So you've got the flavor without the sugars.
Right.
Okay.
Now, somebody might say, now, wait a minute, I'm on the go. I don't have time to do that.
Yes.
Well, then you have to look for something perhaps that's flavored not with sugar, but with maybe the aspartame. I hate saying this, but the sugar replacements. If you want that flavor, there's that. And the other is that maybe just start getting accustomed to, to go from this to totally plain yogurt's difficult to do. But I would say that's probably the best thing to do if you really want that yogurt. Or just say, let's try to get something else that's portable. When I'm at home, I'll do the yogurt thing, where I'll combine it with fruit. So you're getting all those great vitamins and minerals in the fruit, and you're getting the phytonutrients in the fruit too. All those beautiful colors are actually chemicals and nutrients that can help you in other ways. So that's what's so good about that. You could say, well, you know what, I want to do that yogurt thing. I can't do it when I'm, at work, or, well, where I work, I can't do it. If I'm driving down the street or I pull over somewhere. I work at a cat shelter once a week. And you can bet I try to eat things, but I take a break there where I don't even touch the food. So I can't do that where I volunteer. So that I would do something like that. I would just start thinking of what I can have instead. Usually it's what you're not so invested in. It's like, what can you change easily
Yes.
where you're not going to miss it? Do those things
How about
first.
any thoughts of, are we reducing, tips on how to reduce some of the added sugars? We think of the typical jellies and jams, and certainly not using those, but in food preparation or...
We were talking about recipes earlier. If you do your own baking, there's one rule of thumb. If you look at the recipe, say, for a cake or a brownie, this is interesting. You look at how many cups of flour there are. You shouldn't have more than a 1/4 cup of sugar for every cup of flour.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen recipes where there's far more. The ratio is
okay.
higher. Now, to go when you're speaking about a recipe, especially a family favorite, I would do things slow. I would moderate and modify rather slowly to be more moderate. Okay. So I would maybe take off a little bit, maybe a 1/4 of it, of the sugar, until you get down to half. And
Now, won't that make it taste different? Will it? So
it will.
Is there a way to make something have the same flavor with not having that in it?
There's a couple of things. If the cake has cinnamon in it, you could add a little bit more cinnamon.
Oh,
that can trick the tongue. You can do that.
Okay.
There are also things like Splenda, Trulia. There are other types of sweeteners where you can...
That will work also in, say, baking? Okay.
Yeah, that will work also.
For baking?
And you really want to watch that because that's a whole different chemical reaction in there. Like I would follow their recipes because it's a whole different chemical in there. That would be a way to cut out a lot of calories right there.
Right.
I was playing around with that too. Now that's going to look a little different too because the thing that's nice about sugar is it browns nicely. So when you start trying different things, you've got to lighten up and loosen up and know it's going to taste a little differently. That's why we do things in small steps.
So in the 1 minute that we have left in the program, we certainly could get more information as an individual by looking for a registered dietitian that might help us.
Right.
And we can find how can I find a registered dietitian then?
What I would do is I would go to eatright.org.
Okay.
And on the home page, on the upper right corner, is find a nutrition expert. And you left click on that. And what will come up is like some disclaimer. And then there's also how far are you willing to go? What specialty do you need? And there will be somebody. There's plenty in Berks County.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm sure we have some really fantastic folks here.
Absolutely.
Also, one of the other things that I did want to mention, if we can get it up on the screen really quickly, and I don't know that we can really read it, but we have a good nutrition reading list that we have from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. There are 2 pages, and you can find that on that website as well that we've been mentioning, www.eatright.org. Or I know Janet mentioned to me earlier that the Reading Public Library may have some of these key publications and may have some of the areas that we talked about this evening. So with that, we have to wrap it up. I know we could, again, spend more time on just this avenue and making our eating a little bit more healthier. And again, sticking with Nutrition Month of putting your best fork forward. So thanks for tuning in to Aging Matters.